He never raised his voice. He just whispered, and empires fell. But forget the crowns and the castles for a second. Think about the person in your life who does the exact same thing and never gets caught. The friend who's always in the middle, the one who tells you what everyone else really thinks of you. The one who's somehow close to every fight in the group, yet never the one to blame. You've felt it. That quiet sense that someone is stirring the pot while she keeps looking innocent, and somehow you end up looking paranoid. You start doubting your own friends, your own sister, your own instincts. His name was Petyr Baelish. In Game of Thrones, they called him Littlefinger. And if a woman like this has ever made you feel crazy, alone, or cut off from the people who had your back, this video is your defense. Here's all you need to know about him. Littlefinger was born with nothing. No land, no army, no powerful name. And by playing the people at the top against each other, he climbed higher than any of them. He never won a battle. He barely lifted a blade. There's one moment that tells you everything. He stood behind the most honest man in the kingdom, Ned Stark, a man who trusted him, slid a dagger to his throat and said, "I did warn you not to trust me." That was Littlefinger. The danger was never the sword. It was the whisper. He climbed using 2 moves. By the end of this, you'll be able to name both, in the show and in your own life, and you'll know how to shut them down. Let's open the vault. The first move is called Triangulation. Here's how it works. Instead of dealing with 2 people directly, she gets in the middle. She becomes the bridge between everyone, and then quietly, she makes sure that bridge is the only way across. Littlefinger was a master of it. Early on, he told Catelyn Stark that a dagger, the blade a killer had used to try to murder her son, belonged to her enemies, the Lannisters. It was a lie, but that one whispered lie sent 2 of the most powerful families in the realm to war against each other. He didn't raise an army. He just told each side the other couldn't be trusted, and then watched them destroy each other while he climbed. Fans will remember he did it again years later in Winterfell, trying to convince one Stark sister that her own sister wanted her dead, whispering to each of them alone so they'd stop trusting each other and start trusting only him. And that's exactly how it shows up in your life. No castles required. It's the friend in the group chat who's always just letting you know what someone said about you. It's the sister-in-law who carries messages around the family until everyone's quietly angry. And she's the only one still speaking to everybody. It's the coworker who pulls you aside. "I shouldn't tell you this, but the other girls were talking." You never see the 2 sides talk directly. You only hear her version. And her version always leaves her as the only one you can trust. That's the whole trick. Triangulation isn't loud. It doesn't look like an attack. It looks like loyalty. But every secret she hands you is a wall she's building between you and a woman who could have had your back. Here's how you defend yourself. It's simple, but it takes nerve. When someone tells you what another woman really thinks of you, go check. Directly at the source. Her entire power depends on you never comparing notes. Triangulation dies the second 2 women who were told to distrust each other sit down and actually talk. So, make it your rule. Never accept secondhand resentment. If she tells you your friend is against you, you go ask your friend. And watch what she does when you say, "Great, let's all sit down together and talk about this." A real friend says, "Finally, yes." A manipulator suddenly has 10 reasons why that's a terrible idea, why now's not the time, why it'll only make things worse. That panic is the tell. The woman who profits from the distance is the one who fights hardest to keep you apart. Remember, Littlefinger never picked up a sword. He didn't have to. He just made sure the people who could have stopped him were too busy watching each other. The second move is the one that made him famous. In the show, he says it out loud to another schemer named Varys. "Chaos isn't a pit, chaos is a ladder." Most people are afraid of drama. She isn't, because in the confusion, nobody's keeping track of who started it, and that's exactly the cover she needs. Here's the receipt fans know. Long before the war, Littlefinger convinced a fragile woman named Lysa to poison her own husband, Jon Arryn, the second most powerful man in the kingdom, and then to write a letter blaming his death on his rivals. One murder, one lie in a letter. That was the spark that set the entire realm on fire. And every time a great house fell, Littlefinger climbed one more rung, from a man who owned nothing to a lord to the power behind a throne. He didn't survive the chaos, he built it. In your life, This is the friend who quietly starts the fight between you and someone else. A rumor, a screenshot sent to just the wrong person, then steps in as the peacemaker and comes out looking like a saint. It's the partner who picks the argument, winds you up until you're shaking, then turns calm and loving, so you end up thanking him for calming the storm he created. It's the family member who keeps everyone in low-grade chaos, because as long as there's a crisis, everyone needs her, and she's never alone. The pattern is always the same. First, she creates the problem, then she waits. Then when everything's on fire, she steps forward, calm, caring, indispensable, and offers to fix it. Suddenly, the woman who lit the match is the only one holding a bucket of water, and everyone is grateful to her. Defending yourself here comes down to one cold question: who benefits? When a crisis blows up and someone shows up almost instantly with the solution, a little too ready, a little too calm, slow down. Ask who was standing closest to the problem when it started. Ask who gains attention, control, your trust by being the one to fix it. A real friend wants the problem gone for good. A manipulator wants it to keep coming back because every crisis is another rung and she is not done climbing. So watch the pattern over months, not just the moment. The woman who is always near the fire and always holding the hose isn't unlucky. She's the one who lit it. Collecting your gratitude twice. Here's the part almost everyone misses. And fans, this is the moment you cheered for. Littlefinger didn't fall to a bigger army or a sharper blade. He fell in Winterfell because the two Stark sisters he'd spent years trying to pull apart, Sansa and Arya, finally did the one thing he could not survive. They stopped listening to him separately. They compared the stories he'd told each of them, and the moment those stories didn't match, the whole game collapsed. In front of the whole hall, the sister he thought he'd turned into his puppet passed judgment on him instead, and years of whispering ended in seconds. His last words weren't a threat, they were begging. That's the lesson under both moves. Triangulation and manufactured chaos only work in the dark, on women kept apart, on stories that never get compared. A manipulator's greatest fear isn't a stronger enemy. It's a room where every woman she lied to is finally in the same conversation. So, here's what to carry out of the vault with you. If someone is always telling you what other women secretly think of you, check it directly at the source. If someone is always near the problem and first with the solution, ask who benefits. And if a woman panics the moment you suggest that everyone just sit down and talk openly, you already have your answer. You don't beat a Littlefinger by becoming one. You beat her the way the Stark sisters did, by refusing to be kept in the dark and keeping the women in your life close enough to compare notes. If this put a name to someone in your life, comment the word ladder below. I read every single one. Subscribe to The Vault because next time we're opening the file on someone even colder. Until then, watch the quiet ones.